Welcome on the pure wisdom ones. Elevation necessitates separation. That's more than simply a pleasant-sounding sentence. It's an undeniable reality. When you begin to create what you have been striving, praying, and bleeding for, you will notice more than simply benefits. It is the blowback. Here's a fact. Studies indicate that success often causes anger in individuals who feel left behind. Psychologists refer to it as the crab mentality. If one crab attempts to escape from a bucket, the others will pull it back down rather than allowing it to crawl out. Doesn't this sound a bit too familiar? You've outgrown the part of yourself that accepted mediocrity. And guess what? Not everyone is pleased with it. Some individuals benefited from your struggle, loved it, doubted you, and flourished when you played small. They're uncomfortable with your change because it reveals their stagnation. The universe is going to provide precisely what you asked for, but not everyone is ready for the update. Some people loved you more when you were poor, broken, and asking for their acceptance. And now they're going to watch you flourish from the nosebleed seats. Stay focused, because what comes next will not only confirm what you've already sensed in your soul, but will also prepare you for what is ahead. Let's get to it. Number 1, your progress revealed their stagnation. They were never cheering for you. People that are unhappy with your promotion aren't merely envious. They've been exposed. Your development did not cause them anger. It became apparent when you were struggling, unsure, or caught in the same cycles as them. They had no issue applauding for you. You were not a danger. You were not a reminder of what they could have done but chose not to do. You were just one of them. But as you began breaking patterns, moving differently, and rising beyond what people anticipated, the energy changed. It's not like they wanted you to fail outright. They just didn't anticipate you to outgrow them. Now that you have, they're forced to ask themselves unpleasant questions. Why am I still here? Why haven't I leveled up? What is my excuse? Most people dislike staring in a mirror, and your change puts one right in front of them. It's simpler to yell at you than to confess they've been stagnating. They will believe themselves you have changed. You became haughty. You're behaving brand new. But the fact is that you just stopped shrinking to make them comfortable. You stopped limiting your brightness to prevent their anxieties from escalating. The saddest aspect is that they know it isn't personal. You're just being who you were always intended to be. However, instead of being inspired, they chose anger. They'll find methods to disparage your accomplishments. They simply got fortunate. It's not very profound. They believe they are superior than us today. But luck did not bring you here. Discipline and sacrifice. Faith did. Even those who are speaking behind your back may have matured with you, but they made their decision. This is not about arrogance. It's all about alignment. You are not responsible for how others respond to your development. Allow them to feel uncomfortable. Allow them to speak. Your duty is to continue developing, continue manifesting, and keep going ahead without looking back. Second, they benefited from your hardships. They can't exploit you anymore. Some folks never rooted for you. They supported your problems because it made them feel important. As long as you felt lost, broke, or unsure, they had a part in your life. They got to be the counselor, the assist, the one who had it figured out. But now that you're walking into what you've manifested, they're seeing something strange. They can no longer control or define you. They never overtly wished you failure, but they loved you more when you needed them. You may rant to them, lean on them, and get their approval. That gave them a feeling of empowerment. They felt important because you depended on them. But you no longer need their counsel, approval, or views. And this change in dynamics is distressing for them. When you start winning, people reveal their true emotions. Some people will rejoice with you. Others will become aloof, become passive, hostile, or diminish your accomplishments. Not because they are awful people, but because your independence makes them feel insignificant. And it is the part they will never confess. It was never about your success. It was about losing access to the version of yourself that made others feel superior. You'll notice that they suddenly stop checking in as often. They do not applaud as loudly. They may even offer backhanded comments such as, "Oh, must be nice." Alternatively, don't forget where you come from. That is not love. Bitterness disguised as compassion. They are not unhappy because you are winning. They're furious because they no longer have front row seats to your troubles. But here is the reality. You were never meant to be someone else's emotional crutch. You were supposed to raise everyone who only saw you when you were down. I never regarded you as an equal. They saw you as a project. And now that the project is over, they realize they were never part of the final masterpiece. Let them be furious. Continue pushing ahead. Number 3, your manifestation was postponed to keep you safe from concealed adversaries. Your manifestations did not take long. They took precisely the amount of time required since the universe cleared the route beforehand. What you've been waiting for could have come sooner. But if it had, you would not have been prepared. Worse, the wrong individuals would have had access to it, sabotaging, draining, or attaching themselves to it in such a manner as to destroy everything. Have you ever noticed how some individuals begin to withdraw from your life just before anything significant occurs? Friendships fail. Relationships went bad. Opportunities that you believed were secure fall through. This is not a coincidence. It is a cleanse. Your elevation needs protection. And other individuals only stayed because they recognized the promise of what you were doing. They were not there out of real affection or support. They were waiting to see what they might gain from it. If your blessings had come then, they would have rode your wave without giving anything. They would have benefited from your success while secretly praying you never outgrew them. Some of them might have even played the part of a supporter while quietly planning your demise, waiting for the right opportunity to remind you of your previous errors or sow seeds of doubt. So, your manifestation was not delayed. It was protected. The universe was observing what you couldn't see, listening in on discussions you weren't part of, and erasing liabilities that had previously existed. They might cost you everything. Now, when your blessing comes, only those who are destined to share it with you remain standing and looking about. Consider how much lighter your energy feels without some folks there. Everything you've worked for is finally coming to fruition, and it's without the dead weight. You're going to get precisely what you visualized, and no one is nearby to steal, sabotage, or dull it. The weight was not a penalty. It was for protection. Now, move into what is yours. Number 4, your previous identity no longer exists. This is why some people don't recognize you. People get uncomfortable when they're unable to fit you into the box they have constructed for you. They recognized who you were back then. The one who questioned yourself, suffered disrespect, and accepted less than you deserved. That version of you was predictable, manageable, and, most importantly, familiar. However, that individual no longer exists, and it upsets them more than they like to acknowledge. They will attempt to remind you of your past, not because they care, but because they hope you still view yourself in the same way they do. They'll bring up your previous errors, challenges, and failures not to help you progress, but to keep you stuck with a version of yourself that no longer exists. Some individuals want you to remain the same, because if you change, it makes them wonder why they haven't. You have outgrown that tale. They had a part for you to perform, and you quit the script. They no longer know how to deal with you, since the new you is fantastic without their validation, approval, or permission. And it is uncomfortable. You'll find that some individuals become aloof, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your energy no longer matches theirs. Things that used to make you laugh are no longer hilarious. The gossip, the negativity, and the shallow thinking. It no longer feeds you as well as it once did. Rather of growing with you, they choose to hate you for evolving. They'll call you different, and they'll intend it as an insult. But it's the finest praise you could ever get, since the goal of progress is to become unrecognizable from the person you used to be. Let them be bewildered. Allow them to speak. You don't owe someone the previous version of yourself just because it was more comfortable for them. Continue to evolve and materialize and leave the past behind. Number 5. Not everyone was supposed to observe your harvest. Some of the characters were only present throughout certain seasons. Some folks were not intended to remain. They were only sent to prepare you. But the thing is, we get connected. We think that simply because someone was there at the start, they should be there at the conclusion. That isn't how it works. Life does not allow superfluous luggage to reach the next level. Consider the individuals who have left your life in sad, confused, or unexpected circumstances. At the time, it seemed unjust. Perhaps you attempted to reason with them or explain why things went apart. But looking back, you can see the reality. They fulfilled their mission. Some folks were only there to teach you a lesson. Some were brought into your life to put your patience, strength, and capacity to say no to the test. Others were there to reflect your flaws so you could identify and correct them. Then there were some who were just diversions. People you outgrew long before they departed. But you wouldn't let go until the cosmos forced the separation. Your manifestations are appearing now because those folks have left. If they had remained, they would have either drained you, questioned you, or attempted to take credit for what you had achieved. And others would have outright undermined you, either on purpose or out of concealed envy. But here's the catch. When seasonal workers leave, it's seldom tranquil. It occurs via betrayals, abrupt ends, and unforeseen consequences. And this is why so many people overlook the benefit in the loss. They're too preoccupied with the agony of the leaving to see that it was divine intervention in disguise. Not everyone gets to see your crop, since not everyone contributed. Plant the seeds. Let them go. Those who were supposed to be there will remain standing. And the rest. Their leaving was an essential step in your development. Number 6, their assaults are not personal. They are in a spiritual tug of war. They do not even comprehend. Some individuals are unaware of why they have such strong feelings regarding you. They assume it's personal, but it isn't. It is spiritual warfare. Your elevation disturbs something inside them that they haven't dealt with. You did not insult, betray, or hurt them in any manner. What you did was change. And for those who are still locked in their old patterns, this seems like an assault. When you start vibrating at a higher frequency, individuals remain caught in lower vibrations. Feel it energetically. They may not be able to put it into words, but they notice something unusual about you. You don't share the same negativity. You no longer seek affirmation in the same manner that you did before. You're more concentrated, assured, and free, and this disturbs people not because they dislike you, but because they don't recognize this version of you and what the mind cannot comprehend. It resists. Some of these individuals may lash out, gossip, or attempt to discredit you. Others will separate themselves by seeming cold or uninterested. They're not sure why they're doing it. But on a deeper level, your energy reveals something about them. Their own stagnation, phobias, and reluctance to progress. When people see you breaking free of the patterns they've been trapped in, it challenges them to face their own justifications. Instead of looking within, they're more likely to dislike you. But here's where you win. You don't interact. You don't reduce your frequency to express yourself, to persuade them you're still the same, or to demonstrate that you're not behaving better. You let them wallow in their own agony while you continue to soar. This is not a war of words. It's a struggle you can win by continuing to ascend. Allow them to struggle with their own demons. You have a destiny to complete, and the only thing you owe anybody is your honesty, progress, and serenity. Number 7, you're no longer available. And this is the ultimate betrayal of those who relied on your weakness. When you create limits, those who benefited from your lack of them will label you selfish. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they no longer have access to the version of you that is easier to manipulate, drain, or control. They never appreciated you. They treasured what they received from you. And now that the old you is no longer there, they feel deceived. These folks were never actually on your side. They didn't support you. They were engulfing you. They admired the version of you that always said yes, accepted their inconsistencies, and showed up for them even if it meant abandoning yourself. But now that you've outgrown it, they want an explanation. They want to know why you're not returning their calls anymore, why you've stopped overextending yourself, and why you're finally choosing yourself. Here is the truth. You did not cut them off. They lost access because they only saw the weaker side of you. They never invested in your development. Only in how much of yourself were you ready to give up for their comfort. And when you eventually selected yourself, they misinterpreted it for an assault. Watch how they respond when you begin to defend your energy. Some will try to make you feel guilty. You have changed. Some will attempt to gaslight you. I suppose you're too good for us now. Others will play the victim. I was always here for you, so this is how you treat me. However, they were only available to you while you were at their disposal. Now that you're not there, their actual sentiments are surfacing. Let them be furious. Allow them to speak. You don't owe somebody unrestricted access to you just because they were familiar with your previous routines. Your advancement necessitates limits, and those who genuinely care about you will recognize this. Those who do not, they were only interested in the aspects of you that were vulnerable. Number 8, your achievement necessitates seclusion. The improper energy might ruin your manifestation. Success is more than simply what you get. It is about what you leave behind. When you're creating something strong, not everyone can be there to see it, because the incorrect energy may destroy everything you've created before it's even completed. This is why you felt alienated. That is why people have drifted away. Relationships have shifted, and you are needing isolation more than ever. It is not loneliness. It is divine protection. Not everyone has the correct enthusiasm for where they are going. Some individuals are doubtful. Fear, jealousy, or limited thinking. And if you're not cautious, that energy might infect your own manifestation, which is more than simply attracting what you desire. It is about providing an atmosphere in which it may grow. A seed put in hazardous soil will not grow, regardless of its potential. The same applies to your benefits. This is why seclusion is required. The cosmos ensures that when your manifestation comes, it is surrounded by the appropriate energy. Energy that supports, nourishes, and does not harbor resentment against it. Some individuals want to be around while you're suffering because it helps them feel superior to others. I love you in your unfinished form, but I can't bear you taking on your full strength. Keeping them around would have slowed you down, distorted your attention, and caused you to doubt yourself at the worst possible moment. Your success is unfolding now because you've finally been free of what would have ruined it. You're in a season of refining when distractions have been removed and just the basics remain. You may feel alone, yet you are really at the most safe and holy stage of your trip. What's coming is too important to be contaminated. That is why you've been drawn away from certain people, locations, and even previous versions of yourself. This solitude is not punishment. It's time to prepare. When the blessing comes, you'll be glad you didn't allow the incorrect energy touch it. Number 9, the apologies will be too late. Forgiveness is not a free pass back. People who disregarded, questioned, or even betrayed you will eventually remember your phone number. They'll slip back into your communications as if nothing had occurred. Some will make half-hearted apologies. Others will claim they were always on your side. And the most shameless ones, they will attempt to persuade you that you misunderstood everything. That was all a huge mistake. They never intended any damage. But by the time they arrive, it will be too late. Forgiveness is powerful, but let us be clear. It is not an open invitation back into your life. Some folks lost access because they considered you as disposable. When they stood on the sidelines as you fought, or when they secretly wished you'd fail so they wouldn't have to face their own lack of progress. They did not back you up when it mattered most. And now that your success is certain, they want to behave as if they never left. The reality is they never thought you'd get this far. If they had, they would not have separated themselves. They mocked your aspirations or questioned your potential. They saw you fight conflicts alone. They listened to your concerns. Instead of encouraging you, they either reinforced your doubts or remained quiet. And now that they've seen the rewards of your tenacity, they want back in. Not because they appreciate you, but because they find value in what you've created. But here's the distinction between who you were and who you are now. You're no longer yearning for acceptance. You've outgrown the need for validation from those who never recognized your value in the first place. So, when the apologies arrive, people will realize that you can forgive without forgetting and release animosity without reopening doors. Some people choose to disbelieve you, and now it's up to you to figure out how to go without them. Number 10, you are not arrogant. You just stopped shrinking to match their comfort zone. The allegations start as soon as you begin to assert your full influence. You're different. You're behaving brand new. You believe you are superior than us. But what they actually mean is that you stopped making yourself tiny so that I could feel large. You've spent years suppressing your light to make others comfortable. You minimize your knowledge, desire, and goals. Because deep down, you knew that if you completely realized your potential, it would irritate others who were unwilling to evolve. For a time, you endured it. You made yourself more approachable, pleasant, and less scary. Not because you couldn't do more, but because you didn't want to lose relationships. But suddenly something changed. You became bored of playing tiny. You recognized that trying to fit into someone else's comfort zone was a betrayal of your own destiny. So you paused. You have stopped apologizing for your achievement. You stopped watering down your personality in order to avoid making others feel uneasy. You stopped pretending you didn't want more from life, just to fit in with others who were satisfied with less. And now, the people who profited from your self-doubt are uncomfortable. Not because you accomplished anything to them, but because your progress highlights their stagnation. They might have risen with you. They might have been inspired by your achievement. However, they took your metamorphosis personally, as if it was an assault on their mediocrity. The reality is, you are not arrogant. You're done playing little. This makes some individuals uncomfortable because it causes them to face their own decisions. They appreciate the version of you that doubted yourself and minimize your abilities that need their approval. However, that version of you no longer exists. So let them label you arrogant. Allow them to whisper how you've changed. If expansion offends them, it is their weight to bear. You are not designed to live at half capacity in order to make others feel secure. Keep developing and dazzling. Allow them to cope with their own discomfort. Number 11, your energy is pricey. Not everyone can afford it anymore. Your energy is no longer free to everyone. Some folks cannot handle it. They were used to having unrestricted access to you, your time, your knowledge, and your emotional work without ever having to do anything in return. You used to pour into others without hesitation, even when you were completely exhausted. You used to be accessible whenever needed, listening, providing assistance, and giving. And that seemed normal for a while until you realized that most of those individuals weren't investing in you as much as you were in them. The cost of your presence has increased as you've advanced in level. Not because you are haughty or tough, but because you have done the necessary spiritual, mental, and emotional work. You've learned knowledge through adversity, clarity through sorrow, and confidence through experience. Your energy has become a premium currency, and not everyone can afford it anymore. Some people will detest this change not because they valued you, but because they valued the previous version of you who didn't recognize your worth. They miss the person who gave without bounds, condoned inconsistency, and allowed them to take without repercussions. And now, when you expect effort, reciprocity, and alignment, they feel duped. Certain folks will fade away, saying that you have changed or are behaving differently. But what they truly mean is that you're no longer available at the discount rate I previously had. They anticipated lifetime VIP access to your energy without having earned it. And now that the doors are shutting, they are unsure how to proceed. Let them be upset. Allow them to speak. People who are destined for this version of you will match your frequency rather than pull you down to their own. Your energy is vital, and not everyone should have a front row view to your life. Just because they were present in the past, their previous access was considered a luxury rather than a right. And now the price has risen. Number 12. Your path was never intended to be comprehended by the masses. The higher your calling, the more lonely the journey. People enjoy the concept of grandeur, but they are unaware of the cost. They see achievement, confidence, and change, but they were not present throughout the fighting. You struggled silently. They do not realize how much it cost you to get here. The majority of people will never comprehend your path since it was not intended for them. They were not granted your vision. They were not assigned your lessons. They didn't have to bear your hardships. That's why people question, mistrust, and sometimes detest you. Not because you're incorrect, but because they don't understand the road you've taken. There were instances when you had to suffer in quiet. Moments when you doubted yourself because no one else witnessed what you did. You gave up relationships, ships, comfort, and even aspects of your previous identity to become who you are now. And while others sought approval, you were honed in isolation. The fact is that widespread acceptance was never part of your destiny. You weren't supposed to fit in. You were not intended to be readily understood. Your path necessitated rejection, setbacks, and solitude, not as punishment, but as preparation. If everyone understood your path, it would not be heavenly. It would be commonplace. Some would label you insane for believing in yourself when no one else did. Others will criticize your elevation because they're unaware of the extent of your sacrifice. But none of this matters. You were not picked to be loved. You were picked to lead and break cycles, to demonstrate what others are too timid to assert. So let them to misinterpret you. Allow them to question that your path is not about acceptance. It's about being the complete version of yourself and connecting with others who are genuinely aligned with your mission. They won't require any explanation. They'll just recognize you. Number 13. The individuals who questioned you will attempt to alter history. Success has a weird way of changing people's recollections. When they see you succeed, the people who mocked your aspirations, disregarded your challenges, or even sought to undermine you will recall things differently. They'll behave as if they've always had your back. They will inform others. I'd always known they were capable. They'll simply forget the doubts, the side remarks, and the attempts to make you feel tiny. Watch how fast they change things up. People who formerly warned you to be realistic will now boast about how they knew you before you made it. Those who previously disregarded your objectives will now claim to have always backed you. Some may even attempt to position themselves as an important part of your success narrative, believing that by rewriting history, they might ensure a spot in your future. But here is the reality. They questioned you because they didn't see your potential until it was evident. They were not visionaries. They were not believers. They were onlookers on the sidelines, waiting to. And now you haven't. Now that you've proved yourself, they want to rewrite history to make themselves appear good. The irony. Have you listened to them? If you had accepted their skepticism, you would not be where you are now. They had no trust in you until your accomplishments compelled them to pay attention. Even today, their unexpected change of heart is not about you. It's about their fear of being left behind. They do not want to accept the fact that they were mistaken. So, instead of apologizing or addressing their previous behavior, they'll claim they've always supported you. Allow them to speak. Allow them to rewrite history in their thoughts if it helps them sleep at night. You know the truth. You know who was present, who believed, and who did not. And when it comes to the next chapter of your life, the only individuals you should bring along are those who have never required evidence to believe in your brilliance. Number 14. You are evidence that the impossible is attainable. This is why you intimidate them. Nothing scares individuals more than unmistakable confirmation that the boundaries they've set for themselves were never true. And that is precisely what you represent. Your achievement, change, and capacity to actualize what previously seemed unattainable. It's a direct challenge to every justification they've ever used. People prefer to think that the system is rigged and that only a few people can achieve greatness. They lack the necessary contacts, luck, or conditions for success. It's simpler to accept mediocrity when you persuade yourself that anything better was never a possibility. Then you came along, somebody they knew, someone from their own world, someone without any exceptional benefits. You still made it, and now they can no longer hide behind their justifications. Rather of being encouraged by your trip, many people will dislike you for proving them incorrect. Instead of asking, how did they do it? They will wonder, why wasn't it me? They'll scrutinize your achievement, searching for flaws and telling themselves you had an unfair edge. If they can characterize you as fortunate, privileged, or even unworthy, they will avoid dealing with the true issue. The only thing holding them back was themselves. Some people will separate themselves, not because you did anything wrong, but because being around you is a painful reminder of what they might have become if they had maintained the same degree of discipline, belief, and resilience. Others will attempt to undermine you, seeking to bring you down so they can feel comfortable again. But here's what you should know. Your triumph is not debatable. You do not owe them an apology, an explanation, or a toned-down version of yourself to make them feel better. Keep rising and shining, and let them deal with their own suffering. Because at the end of the day, you are living evidence that the impossible is achievable. And for those who remain locked in their own self-imposed constraints, this is the most scary fact of all. At this point, there is no turning back. You've moved beyond the constraints, doubts, and obsolete narratives that formerly kept you hostage. You have entered a world in which you are no longer waiting for permission. No more shrinking. No longer explain your development to individuals who are determined to misunderstand you. You've arrived. With that arrival comes the inescapable reality. Not everyone can join you. Some folks were supposed to be part of your base rather than your elevation. Some relationships were not designed to sustain the weight of your accomplishment. And some people will detest you, not because you have harmed them, but because your presence causes them to face what they have avoided inside themselves. Allow them to feel uncomfortable. Allow them to speak. The beauty of development is that it shows who is actually intended to walk beside you and who is merely there for what they could get. Your energy is no longer readily accessible. Your presence is no longer a discount, and your success is no longer contingent on external affirmation. They questioned you, and now they want back in. They dismissed you, and now they want to remake history. They expected you to remain little, but now they are terrified by your growth. But here's the fact. You owe no one a backstage ticket to your fate. Those who have backed you from the beginning will join you in celebration. Those who did not will have to observe from a distance. This voyage was never intended for the people to comprehend. It was intended for you, for those who dared to believe, refused to settle, and accepted the discomfort of change. And now you are live evidence that the impossible is achievable. So move forth unapologetically. The selected ones do not beg for acceptance. They do not seek for permission. They ascend. Whether this message spoke to you, whether you sensed a shift, confirmation, or unmistakable truth, be sure to remain connected. Subscribe to the channels to never miss another discovery that is relevant to your quest. Hit the like button to let the cosmos know you agree with this energy. And most importantly, leave a comment underneath. Let us chat about it. Have you ever had an encounter like this? Have folks turn on you? Let's create a community in which the selected ones recognize one another. Also, remember to share this video with someone who needs to hear it. There is always someone out there who is doubting their progress, feeling lonely, and asking why their advancement is hurting them. Relationships are the ones that affirm what people already know. Deep down, this path is not for the weak, yet it is worthwhile. Stay tuned, maintain your elevation, and continue to walk with force. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, share with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Stay tuned for more, because the story doesn't end here. Let's keep breaking boundaries together. Your time has come. God bless you. If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.